Okay.
I like
Chief,
that.
we shared before, right? You grew up with your moms only.
Yes.
Um, how do you surmise the question?
So when you ask it, the funny thing is the first thing I thought of was my grandparents.
Mm,
Just because when you raised by a single mom, she's out doing the thing. You with your grandmoms, you know what I'm saying? My grandfather. So like, does the parent trauma affect your own relationship? Yes, but it can be in various different ways, though. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for example, my grandfather was, he was a drunk and would come home beating on my grandma. I haven't been drunk a day in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was
mhm,
something I saw back then. It was like, yo, that drinking, it ain't for me. If that's what
yeah,
drinking makes you do, I don't want to do that. You dig what I'm saying?
mm,
But in the same
Shit,
token,
curse, bro.
my father wasn't around. So it put a desire in me to want to be the best father I could be. So my daughter don't have these same feelings. You know what I'm saying? So it had like an adverse effect to it. You dig what I'm saying? So,
mhm.
and that's kind of my thing. So the trauma, it depends on how you handle the trauma. Like Mr. Once you
Yes.
identify it, it depends on how you go about handling it. You know what I'm saying? I chose to go like a different route, I
It
guess.
sounds like you flipped it, right?
Right. And I just realized that in both
Hey,
ways,
bro,
like
that's how you
seeing them
break the
drink like that.
generational curse right there.
Right. So seeing them drink like that ain't for me. My dad ain't around. I don't want to be there. I don't want my kid to feel like I felt. You dig what I'm saying? So I tried, I
Mhm.
guess I don't know if it was subconscious or how it happened, but
Yeah.
my mindset said, don't be like that.
Well, I just want to give you your flowers while you're here. I mean, you led us to play flag football. That ain't shit, but it was shit to us. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
You know I don't listen well. I'm hard headed. All of that. You know what I mean? But Chief would be like, all right, nigga, calm down. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I done kept you out of a bunch of fights, nigga.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? So you not only with your kids, but with men. And I think, like Alex said, somebody's gonna be in charge. Doesn't mean the other one's necessarily not alpha at all. You know what I'm saying? But in that instance, we look to you to do a lot of shit. I remember I was broke. I don't know why the fuck I was broke. Oh, drinking too much Hennessy and I wanted to drink Incredible Hulk and shit. So I had both, but I ain't have enough money at that time. This back in 2011, and I'm like, Chief, I need $25 to pay for this bag to get on this plane. That
I
nigga
don't.
Chief was paid at least $1,000 because everybody needed some bread.
But
But
I don't know. I just thought about this. So double back though. Like I think in the football essence, like I was just as angry as you were. You know what I'm saying? But I think I don't know. Somewhere along the lines, I just knew how to channel that shit in terms of like keeping us out of trouble and whatnot.
yeah,
Because there's been plenty of times I wanted to body slam a nigga, but it was like that ain't the way. You know what I'm saying? That ain't the way to
yeah,
go. So I think you
yeah,
know to Mary's point, like when you want to spaz, sometimes you got to be able to control that shit. And I think that's
yeah.
I don't know
Word.
where the hell it
Especially if
came from,
everybody
but
and then everybody else spaz, and you like, all right, well, let me be. You know what I mean? At least I could
right.
chill. Shout out to Bub. So, Ro, what do you think? What do you think happened? So, my small example, Chief's example, um, I think even Alex, just me knowing her. Do you think that most people flip it positive, or you think it goes the other way most times?
I think if you're self-aware, then you will flip it positive. I'll just a little bit of background. I actually am your third daddy's girl type. I was raised by my father, a
Mm-hmm.
single man,
Okay.
um, of four kids.
You
So
can't remember?
I'm the oldest of everybody.
Oh, all right.
So um, my father taught us to be self-sufficient. Two
Mm-hmm.
girls, two boys.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got married, I was acting in a self-sufficient way. I was not acting in
Damn.
a way where I was the wife and he was the husband.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, my father's military. So
Mm.
the structure, the do it this way, it's the right way. All of that was good in a sense when it comes to work, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes into personal relationships, I had to flip it, particularly with my children. I
Mm-hmm.
can give them structure, but I need to teach them how to communicate. My father
Yeah.
wasn't a communicator. He was
Mm-hmm.
just a doer. He was a worker because that's what the military teaches them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for myself, um, just dealing with different traumatic situations, being the oldest child, the girl child. I had to deal with some things that my siblings didn't have to deal with. So
Yeah.
at the same time, for my kids, I had to make sure that I flipped it in a positive way once I acknowledged what was bad and
Hmm.
leave the bad stuff and flip it and take the good things like the structuring and teaching them about education. But at the same time, I have to teach them also how to be human beings and that their thoughts matter, their feelings matter, because I didn't get that as a kid.
Can I
So
ask a question real quick?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I'm
go ahead, Chief.
I'm just curious. So when you say your dad raised you to be like an independent woman, so yes or no, you think that showed up more in your relationship as a negative thing in your
Um,
marriage? I don't know if you're still married or whatever,
Yeah,
but
that's what I
I'm
wanted to ask.
divorced. So for my marriage, it was a bad thing
Mm,
because
okay,
we were raised in basically the most extreme situations. He was raised by his grandparents because his mom and dad were divorced and wasn't around. And then I was raised on the other extreme where I was structured walking like a soldier.
okay.
So
Now, in your husband, your is current or ex-husband?
ex-husband.
Okay, in your ex-husband, did he have characteristics of your father?
Now that I look back, yes.
mm.
Meaning to the point of not the aggressive, but he was more passive. He was the type of husband like SGL was talking about, where he would allow me to lead and be okay with that,
But he wasn't though.
but he wasn't.
Mm. That yeah. Okay. Damn, that's all right. Hold that, roll. That was great. Cause now that's like a different flip too. It's like a B minus. Like you passed and it was good, but then there was a lot of things we could have done, like changed, I guess. Um, Love, what's your thoughts on it?
Um, I'm congested, but yes, parent trauma does affect your own relationships. It has showed up in my life, and if I didn't realize that first, and I saw some things that occurred in my parents, and I said I would never do it, but I ended up doing it and manifesting it into my life.
Mm,
And so therefore when I acknowledged it and saw it, because I kept seeing these patterns of my own behavior that I did not like, that's when I sought out the help and the healing and the tools and the therapy to address those issues.
yeah. Word. Q, what you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna say absolutely. I'm
Mm,
dealing with it right now. Uh,
mm,
just with the toxic, I should say toxic environment that I grew up in, but some of the things that my stepdad dealt with from his childhood came over into my childhood and the childhood of my siblings. And
mm-hmm.
you know, with relationship being such a eye opener as to unhealed areas in your life, a lot has been exposed as to how that parent trauma has had an effect on me. Um, Everything, like down to the alcoholism, you know what I mean? Like just always making sure that I have some level of control. I never wanted to be that person to drink and get like an addiction to it or anything like
Mm.
that. Or, smoking in my house, things like that. Like nothing that he did. It's all just like trying to break those generational curses like Racine was talking about.
Damn, you know what's crazy? And I get some final thoughts from Devin and SGL. With this panel is small, right? But based on what is being said here, and I believe every single thing that everybody said, sound like a lot of people overcame and thought differently from those traumas, right? It leads me to believe that a lot of like what we hear to Q, I think Q says this a lot in different ways. It's like propaganda. Like it's like what's actually happening around you, or is it what we see on TV that's the truth? You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to say that out loud. Let me get some quick final thoughts on this topic so we can approach the last one and a half topics. SGL and Devin.
Um, yeah, I would say, yeah, trauma definitely exists, and it does affect, particularly how your parents parent you. I would say for men and young boys in particular, like in my case, it's like your mother trying to create you to be a particular type of man because of whatever issues she had with your father. you know, and then what I see in other young men is mothers who have like this maybe like visceral like anger for the fathers, and they kind of take that out on the son. So it's like an early emasculate. Like honestly, if I'm gonna go ahead and say it, like a lot of times our mothers are the first one to emasculate us as black men, without even realizing it. And that trauma trickled down and how you know what we're seeing in the boys, and how they're reacting towards, you know, each other and towards women.
Or
Yeah.
I think I agree. Devin, quick final thought on this.
What I think is, I look at my dad's trauma. You know what I'm saying? Losing my grandmother really young. My grandfather wasn't really around and wasn't available to him in the way that he needed him as a man to be, like as an emotional maturity standpoint. So like when he had me, I just moved how he moved, and he was raising me from a space that he could only go as far as the man before him took him. So, and then my mom like drinking and stuff like that. That was in my house. So I had an avoidance to drinking, but then as I got older, it became a problem. So not only do I deal with like the bad temper stuff I seen going on in the crib, and then the drinking, that started to inhabit with me, and I started to recognize that. And then me also being a man of God, like I had to make a choice. Somebody has to make the choice to be like, yo, it's got to die with me. It can't go because I refuse to let it touch these babies. You know what I mean? So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I get into therapy and stuff like that is important. But we grew up in the era where your uncles and them would be like, call you soft, whatever. Like we don't do that. That's white people. We don't do none of that. But like we're starting to see now that as a people, this is something that needs to be essential. Not even just because just getting into a relationship, but just being better self-aware of yourself. Because when you're better adjusted, you raise better adjusted human beings, and they go up and do the same. So people want to change society, change home first. Because I
Yeah.
guarantee when you start setting stuff right inside the house, instead of certain type of energy in the crib, especially with your kids, it's gonna proliferate outside because they're gonna take that with them. Because when they go outside, they know, yo, I represent my mom and dad. I was representing my mom and dad, but I was representing the worst parts of them because that's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Now, when they put their best part out as they got older and grew mature, that's what I was bringing out to the world. So
Or
it's just
yeah.
sad. We have parents that nobody
All
taught
right,
them how to heal.
Devin, you be making a lot of good points. You got to land on one so we can consume it.
And
I'm
put the
sorry.
baby's bottle in his mouth. He want that bottle. You sitting
Let
there
the
playing
baby
his
eat.
baby.
Fighting
God
right
damn.
now. He act
But
like he
nah,
don't want
that
to
shit
hold
is
that.
real though. At one point, I want to bring out that you said is you could take it either way, which I think you said it and we described it with the examples.
Yeah.
You could take the worst parts or the best parts. You make a choice at a point. You know what I'm saying? I think some of it is innate and you got to fight it every day. But at a point, you have to make a choice. Hey man, shout out to y'all, and that shit was dope.
Appreciate y'all.
All right.